Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. And I want to particularly thank our hosts at the SF Eagle for having us here today. The Eagle is really a great example of a resurgence in nightlife in San Francisco, where we were able to save a great institution that is really flourishing today. So thank you guys for hosting us. And welcome today as we announce a bill for 2018 to allow but not require 6 cities in the state of California to extend their bar and nightclub alcohol service hours to 4 a.m. if they choose to do so. Nightlife is incredibly important in California. I think sometimes people have this perception that nightlife, it's only about fun. Of course, it is about fun, but it's also about the culture of our city and our state, whether it's our nightclub scene or our live music scene or just neighborhood bars where people go to enjoy themselves. It's part of the heart of the culture of our community. In addition, nightlife is a big factor in California's economy. In San Francisco alone, nightlife is a $6 billion industry, employing 60,000 people and generating over $50 million a year in tax revenue. This is a major industry here in the Bay Area, in Los Angeles, elsewhere, employing a lot of people, and we need to support nightlife. And so what this bill does, it's very simple. In 1935, after Prohibition ended, California adopted its liquor laws. And it set in 1935 a one-size-fits-all rule for the entire state of California, whether you're in a tiny rural town or in downtown Los Angeles, that alcohol service must stop everywhere at 2 a.m., no exceptions. Many other states allow later service. Other countries, large cities, allow later service. And we hear very frequently people coming to California from other parts of the country or other parts of the world, and they ask, why am I in a major metropolitan area, a major city, and everything shuts down at 2 a.m. or 1:45? And that there's no flexibility under any circumstances to serve alcohol for 1 minute later than 2 a.m. Now, this bill does not automatically extend hours. Sometimes people get it in there, immediately conclude that this bill is going to mean that their neighborhood bar is open till 4 a.m. This bill is a pure local control bill. It does not require any city to allow its nightlife to go past 2 a.m., but it gives permission to have local decision making so that cities can decide for themselves whether to stay at 2 a.m. or go to 3 a.m. or go to 4 a.m. Now, we introduced a bill this year, our bill to allow any city in the state of California to go past 2 a.m. up to 4 a.m. The bill got great bipartisan support, a 2/3 bipartisan vote in the Senate. We had strong support in the Assembly, and we hit a snag in our final committee and didn't move forward in the Assembly. So we are trying again. This time, we are limiting the bill to the 6 cities whose mayors have expressed interest in later closing times. So rather than have every city in the state of California, even ones that would never do it, we're limiting it to the 6 cities whose mayors have expressed interest. And those cities are San Francisco, Los Angeles, Oakland, Sacramento, Long Beach, and West Hollywood. And these are cities with great nightlife, and their nightlife is going to get even better. The bill, again, does not automatically extend hours. These 6 cities will have the power to decide for themselves. The bill requires that there be a community process to make sure that stakeholders are involved. Law enforcement has to be involved in that planning process. In addition, if a city decides it wants to go later, they will have to prepare a transportation plan and a public safety plan. So this is not a situation where a city will decide next month we're going later. They're going to have to go through a process and make that decision. This is not an on switch or off switch for the entire city. A city can decide, as they almost certainly would, that they will only go past 2 a.m. perhaps in one neighborhood or 2 neighborhoods in a limited area, maybe even only on one commercial corridor. They don't have to do it 7 nights a week. They can do it anywhere from 1 night a year. A city could decide we're just going to do this for New Year's Eve or for a few special events, or they could do it 365 days a year, or just Friday, Saturday nights. Again, pure local control. Every city will decide what makes sense for it. So this is an exciting bill. We had good support this year. I think we're going to be able to get it passed next year. We once again have bipartisan co-authorship of this bill. This is not a partisan issue. Democrats and Republicans can all find things to love in this bill. I want to thank our co-authors to date. I know we'll have more, but Assembly members Miguel Santiago, Democrat from LA, Republican Assemblymember Jay Obernolte, and Assemblymember, a Democrat, Reggie Jones-Sawyer. I want to thank the mayors that are supporting this bill. Mayor Ed Lee from San Francisco, Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, Mayor Garcetti from Los Angeles, Mayor Steinberg from Sacramento, Mayor Heilman from West Hollywood, and Mayor Garcia from Long Beach. They have all expressed support for later hours. So now I want to, we have a few great speakers here today, and first I want to welcome up my friend and my mentor and my predecessor in the California State Senate, who laid a lot of the groundwork on this bill and introduced it a few times, and every time we get a little bit further with it, and so Senator Mark Leno.
Thank you, Senator Wiener. It is a pleasure to join you today. And yes, I could show you my scars from some of the earlier incarnations of this bill. But I want to thank you also, Senator Wiener, for your tenacity, which is so often the name of the game in Sacramento, because the most important issues and some of the more challenging issues that legislators move forward often do not happen after a first try, a second try, third try, sometimes even a fourth try. And Senator Wiener is correct. This last attempt got further than any previous attempts and had more bipartisan support than any earlier incarnation. So I am confident that this bill will be the vehicle, because this is an idea whose time has come. The oppositional argument has traditionally been that one additional drop of alcohol served is one drop too many. Now, that is an emotional opinion, which is due respect, but is not how we craft sound, thoughtful, effective public policy. How we do that is evidence-based data and research. And we have all of the data that shows from the National Highway Traffic Safety Association that on average, states that allow for later than 2 a.m. alcohol service have lower rates of alcohol-related traffic deaths than states that don't. Now, you might think that sounds a little counterintuitive, but even more and more law enforcement folks will tell you that the challenge in keeping communities safe when everyone is exiting bars at about the same time, about 2 a.m., having been to the bar to get their last few chugs down, that's a formula for mayhem. It's a dangerous situation, and that's what neighbors should rightfully be concerned about. But when that last call is staggered over a couple hours' time, it's a much more manageable situation. People get into their cars less inebriated because they've had a little time to wind down. They didn't just chug their last drink. So this is based on evidence-based data. And this is not a radical notion. And you'll hear from folks who are in the industry, business leaders from restaurants and bars and entertainment, who will tell you that San Francisco has to compete on a global basis when we're attracting tourists, when we're attracting conventions and conferences. And part of the appeal is catering to those visitors' desires after hours and later into the night. And you would be hard-pressed to find any coastal city in any state in this country, and certainly around the world, other than in California, that does not have this allowance. It's such a radical notion. Did you know that bars don't close in Mobile and Birmingham, Alabama? Now, maybe Alabama is not a good state to bring up at this time, but it just makes the point that this is an antiquated situation here in California. And I don't want to repeat, but I want to underscore what Senator Wiener has said about local control. This bill requires nothing of anyone. It authorizes just 6 cities that have expressed an interest to be able to go through a very rigorous public process to craft regulations that will work for their communities or not. Let the process be able to proceed. And I'll just conclude by saying this is exactly what Governor Brown had in mind when he taught Californians the term subsidiarity. Let those closest to the decisions being made and their effects of those decisions make those decisions. This bill deserves support, and I'm confident that it will get to the governor's desk next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Leno. So we are lucky, as part of our amazing nightlife in San Francisco, to have a wonderful community of drag queens. And sometimes when people think of drag queens, they think of performers and personalities, and of course that is absolutely part of it. But in San Francisco, our drag queens are also critically important community leaders, community voices, and business people. And so we're very lucky to have with us today 2 of our great community leaders, Heklina and Honey Mahogany. Heklina, like the Eagle, where we were at risk of losing a venue, came in and with some partners opened up Oasis right down the street, which has been a really highly successful nightclub and community space. And Honey Mahogany is just a fantastic leader in our community who also represented us on RuPaul's Drag Race. And so it's my pleasure to welcome up Heklina and Honey.
Doing this together? Okay. I have to compete with you? No. Hi, everybody. Well, this is a very serious matter. That's why I've worn my Anna Wintour wig and sunglasses. Hi, honey.
Hi.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't want to repeat what everyone said, but I will say that I'll speak for myself. I've spent well over 20 years trying to make nightlife in San Francisco diverse, creative, and something that will appeal not just to tourists, but also the people who live here. And it always has been frustrating to deal with this outdated and draconian law, I think. And it's an embarrassment. I travel a lot. It is an embarrassment when I go to places like Chicago or New York and they have liquor laws, the real liquor laws. And San Francisco is a world-class city, and I think we need to adopt new thinking around this law.
Yeah, I think that San Francisco has been an amazing international destination for generations, and it's time that our laws caught up with it. I'm Honey Mahogany. I'm also an owner at the Stud Bar. I don't know if that was mentioned earlier, but please do come to the Stud. We are a small gay bar. We are 51 years old, almost 52. A collective of people just took it over. And we are participating in resistance economics here in San Francisco because a lot of our small businesses are closing due to high rents. And I think that this is going to be a really amazing way to keep small businesses open. It's a really important bill. I really hope it passes. I know that it could potentially save the Stud, and it could save many small neighborhood bars owned by community people, working class people, and I just hope that the rest of the state agrees.
Yeah, and to underscore what Honey said, you know, it is really difficult nowadays in San Francisco to keep a business afloat, especially in nightlife. And I just want to say I have many venues make 85% of their revenue between 11:30 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. A lot of people don't show up to a nightclub until after 11 p.m. So expanding that window by an hour or two can make a huge difference for these locally owned businesses. Please help me stay in business so I can keep affording fabulous wigs and dresses like this.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Please save Heklina's dress, please.
Help a poor drag queen out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to add levity to this, but it's true. We would love to have the added revenue of staying open just 1 or 2 hours more, and keeping San Francisco a world-class city, and making nightlife much more attractive. I can't tell you, to underscore what everyone said, how embarrassing it is when visitors come from New York and Chicago and we have to kick them out on the street at 2 a.m.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because we can't, some of us do have late night licenses that stay open till 4 a.m. But because we can't serve alcohol, it really does impact our income. A lot of the parties that we support will end up making money from the door, but the bar actually isn't able to make liquor sales, which is how it gets the majority of its profits. So this bill is incredibly important in saving small bars in San Francisco and saving the real, authentic nightlife culture that has made San Francisco such an international destination for so many people all over the world. So please support this bill.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Helena and Honey, and I want to really thank Honey Mahogany for her work and the entire Stud Collective's work in saving the Stud. Like the Eagle, like Oasis, these venues can go away, and the Stud Collective in particular, and talk about just people being really scrappy and innovative and hardworking, and we need to be there to help support that effort with this bill. Next, we have had great support from the business community outside of traditional nightlife, particularly from our restaurants, our hotels, and our travel association, and the California Travel Association, California Restaurant Association, and the California Hotel and Lodging Association, and the local organizations have all been incredibly supportive. And now I want to welcome up from the San Francisco Hotel Council, Jessica Lum, and from the Golden Gate Restaurant Association, Gwyneth Borden.
Thank you, Senator Wiener, for your leadership on this issue and for your leadership as supervisor on improving late-night transportation for San Francisco's multi-billion-dollar nightlife industry. The Hotel Council supports allowing San Francisco and select California cities to extend bar hours to 4 a.m. Extended bar hours would attract more visitors who not only stay in our hotels, but support the businesses nearby, including bars and restaurants. San Francisco competes with many other U.S. cities that have late-night service hours past 2 a.m., including Washington, D.C., New York City, Chicago, Las Vegas, and New Orleans. Senator Wiener's proposed legislation would help align California with at least 15 other states where local jurisdictions have the authority to decide alcoholic beverage service hours. World-class cities in California, including San Francisco, need this legislation to support a strong economy and to help remain competitive with other cities in the United States and the world. Thank you again for your leadership.
And to add to that, San Francisco's always been a world-class culinary destination, and people often complain about the lack of late-night options for dining. And the economics just simply don't work with the closing times being required as they are, and the limited operations of other sort of nightlife. People often have to choose, do I eat or do I drink? With this proposed legislation, we would be in a very different position where a lot of our restaurants, you don't have to rush and try to get there at 10 p.m. to get your last reservation. You could actually have later better options that would serve the locals and people who work in the hospitality industry. We become very insensitive to the fact that not everybody works a 9-to-5 job. People of all different stripes of life have all different kind of career opportunities. And as a consequence, they ought to be able to get off from work at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. and also get a beverage and find a place to eat. So this legislation will really go a long way in providing more jobs and opportunities, not just for tourists, but for residents alike, and also really help expand our world-class culinary destination, and so you can get into those restaurants that you may not have been able to get into at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, but now they'll be available at 1 a.m. Thank you so much, Senator Wiener, for your leadership and for everything that you're doing.
So as I mentioned, nightlife employs a lot of people, and these are working class jobs. And so we had strong support this year from labor, particularly from the Teamsters and from Unite Here, who understand that this means more work for their members during difficult times, sometimes economically, in very expensive cities. And so today I'm thrilled that we have Mark Gleason from the Teamsters here to show support. Mark.
Thank you, Senator Wiener. The Teamsters have supported this legislation in its various iterations now since both Senator Leno, former Senator Leno, and Senator Wiener have been proposing this over the years. We appreciate the local controls and the safety controls that are involved. Our membership throughout California are the men and women who prepare and deliver all the beverages to an establishment like this, beer and wine, soda and water, juice, hard liquor. In addition to that, we also have members that work in the hospitality industry, along with the other trade unions in the hotel industry here in San Francisco, as an example, and they'll benefit by that. And in addition, I would also propose an ancillary benefit here for the citizens of our community who are concerned about traffic. There's always been a grail searched for deliveries so that the delivery trucks aren't blocking all the streets. And there's a potential here for late, with the closure at 4 o'clock, to actually have early deliveries of those through logistics houses and distributorships that are in California, because the traffic is so difficult. So we can envision perhaps that some of those deliveries could take place at a very early morning hour, not unlike garbage collection, so that those trucks are off the street at an earlier time. So that's another benefit that would happen that the larger community could look forward to as well. But we do want to emphasize that ourselves, certainly HERE and the other trade unions in California, are fully supporting this proposal, and we hope it passes very soon. Thank you.
Now our final speaker, I want to invite up Ben Blyman from the California Music and Culture Association and the San Francisco Bar Owners Alliance. We have a wonderful network of bars and nightclubs who work real hard, employ a lot of people, and advocate for good policy. Ben.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Ben Blyman. I'm here representing the California Music and Culture Association and the San Francisco Bar Owner Alliance. We're the groups that represent the trade organizations that represent bars, nightclubs, music festivals, and music venues in San Francisco. And I don't think you can find a membership base that cares more about the city than ours does, and the places that they live. Our members, I think, they're the heart of small business, and they really try to add more than just revenues to the city. We're a huge cultural driver. We want to bring art and music, and we want to expand art and music. And this is a very, very difficult time in San Francisco for art in general. Between the rising prices and all the other factors that are affecting, we're seeing art and music leaving the city rather than come here. And we're looking for creative ways to expand our artistic offerings and expand our culture. And this bill certainly will definitely impact that in a positive way. Nightlife drives culture, and as Senator Wiener says, we're a huge economic driver as well. Billions of dollars, as he stated, and tens of thousands of employees in the city who are involved. But we feel that we have the capabilities to be a world-class city with nightlife, but the fact is that we are simply not. We do not compete in San Francisco with any of the major nightlife cities in the world and in America, specifically because we have to close so early. And the amount of people that we have to cast away who are tourists or who are expecting late night options is mind-boggling when you're in the industry, how many people you see you have to send off to go to sleep. A lot of people don't even go out till 11, and they can't understand why things are closing so early. We are absolutely thrilled that Senator Wiener and his colleagues are not giving up on this bill. And we think it makes absolute sense for these 6 cities who want it, and to leave the control in the hands of the cities themselves is key. And finally, we just want to thank Senator Wiener and his colleagues and everybody else who's been a leader on this efforts, and we hope it passes and goes forward. Thank you.
Great. I just want to thank a few additional organizations that have been really supportive consistently. The San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, the Central City Association of Los Angeles, which has been very, very helpful. And sometimes when people talk about the concerns around drunk driving, even though, as Senator Leno has mentioned, there's absolutely no correlation between closing time and drunk driving rates. We also know that although we all want BART to run 24 hours, and eventually we'll get there, that we have other ways for people to get around without driving. And I want to thank the San Francisco Taxi Workers Alliance, as well as Uber and Lyft for supporting the bill, because people don't have to drive to go out. There are other ways to do it, and it's a really important way to reduce drunk driving, not just from 2 to 4, but throughout the day. So again, I want to thank everyone for being here, our speakers, all of our supporters. We are committed to this bill, and we're going to fight hard next year to get it passed. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott.